5. Dang it, I should have got my glasses. Okay. I'll give this a minute to see if anybody joins in, because I've had an idea. And I don't know if it's going to work or not. But the only way to figure out if an idea works is to try it, right? I need a little planter to start a little variegated vining plant. And while I wouldn't mind to just thrift for a McCoy planter, it's hard to find those without damage. So, me being who I am, completely missed the trash can. Me being who I am, I decided, hey, you know something? You can make a planter. And I want a possum planter so that, like, the possum's sitting up and the planter is this little pouch in its belly. Don't ask me how I think about these things. It just happens. So I've got a Gatorade bottle. My cat knocking on the front door. So I've got a Gatorade bottle. I want a possum planter. I don't know what's wrong with me. The whole time I was sick, I was like, I want a possum bag holder for the kitchen. I want a possum this, I want a possum that. I've decided I want a possum planter for my little variegated flower that I've been finally getting to root. So I've got this little Gatorade bottle. And it's the perfect size to house that little thing for a while. And the thing is how do I turn it into a possum? So I'm thinking I can do kind of like what I did and cut a hole for the pouch, cover it in a sock, well, put a sock and then stuff it so it looks like a fat possum, and then glue everything to it and into the inside of the hole where I'm going to cut for the pouch, just a white sock. And then I can paint or use felt spots to make it look like a possum, and use the little pink felt to make hands. And then I can fill another sock just a little way with beans and make it look like a little pointy nose and a head, and glue it right on top and make it some little ears and paint it. And then I can use a piece of jewelry wire and make its little tail go up behind it and curl behind its little head. That's the goal. I don't know if it will happen, but it all started with a Gatorade bottle. So I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. But I thought I would give you all an idea. I'm sitting so much higher today because I'm in my rolly chair and I feel like I'm perched. It feels strange to be sitting this high for the dinner table. But anyway, that's my idea. That is what my mind is like. You can totally do this, Elizabeth. You can totally make this. This is not a big deal. Right? Right? And the thing is I have to make the hole big enough for the plant to grow, and so that I can get it planted safely and without like smashing my hand every time I need to like repot it or change it. So it's going to have a rather big possum pouch. But I mean, possum pouches are huge if you've ever caught a possum. Anybody ever caught a possum? I don't recommend you catch a possum. But if you catch a possum and you check for babies, especially if they're on the road, their pouches are ginormous. My nose is itching. Okay, so I have a hole. I have a hole cut. I think that was the part that was scaring me the most, because you all know my hand-eye coordination when I have flares is not the best in the world. Probably was not a wise thing to do right after a flare. We won't tell my husband. Shh. We will not tell David. Shh. No one speaks of this. You know nothing. You saw nothing. You know nothing. So I just thought I'd jump on because everybody's always like, how in the crap did you do that when I make things? And I'm like, it normally starts with one of those 3 a.m. thoughts of, I don't want to buy that. And so I end up making it. So I'm not going to put like any weights or anything at the bottom because when I put the soil down here to start the plant, it's going to be plenty heavy enough to sit on its own. And the thing is like you could get like one of those huge water jugs. And like I was thinking like one of those big Culligan water jugs that sometimes people throw away. And you could cut, like you could solder open a hole in it and you could make it like a pig. And put it on your porch. And it would be big enough to like, I love to put like ornamental sweet potato vines on my porch during the summertime. It would be big enough to do that. And I was just like, there's no telling if I feel good what I may get into this summer. Y'all may want to pray for David right now. It may not go well for him. Oh, Lord. If I feel good, I normally go 90 or nothing. If I feel bad, I don't do very well at all. But since I'm starting to feel better, I'm starting to try to do a few things. I loaded the Etsy store. See, you like the pig idea? Or you can make a pug dog. Or you can make a cow. My daughter-in-law is like a cow fanatic. I mean, there's no nice way to put it. She's a cow fanatic. She's a cow freak. And you could totally like make one that's a cow. All you gotta do is learn how to shape the head, you know. And in a pinch, another bottle and aluminum foil, hot glue, and modeling clay. That can go a long way. You're driving, so you're listening. Okay, I'll keep talking then, so you don't have to look. Please don't wreck. So I'm wrapping socks over my Gatorade bottle. I've got my hot glue gun heating up. I will probably burn myself. If you hear me squall, I burnt myself. But this is something that I think is going to work out kind of cute. So I'm interested to see if I can do this or not. So I'm putting a double layer of socks over the Gatorade bottle. Number one, to hide the Gatorade bottle really, really good, even though I cut the label and stuff off, just to hide the Gatorade bottle. But in between the first sock and the second sock, I'm going to put polyfill so that I can make my possum fat. Because I've never seen a skinny possum. Ain't gonna start now. So I'm going to put polyfill in between the first sock and the second sock to make the possum fat. And I'm going to avoid where the opening is that I'm going to put the plant because that will have to be glued in. And we want to make his butt bigger than the rest of him because he's going to be sitting on his butt. So we want to make the butt big. Or maybe I just feel completely inadequate and want the possum to be as fat as me. I don't know. Perhaps I need to go to therapy. But we're going to make him fat. So I'm stuffing polyfill way down against the edge of the Gatorade bottle. So it's still going to have a firm, you know, sit. It's going to sit on the counter firm, especially when you put the potting soil in it. But by the time you put the head on, because the head is most likely either going to be filled with polyfill or beans. I don't know. It depends on what looks best. Then it'll be heavier also. So I'm just trying to give him a belly and a butt right now. You know, because plastic surgery, that seems to be what everybody's after. So I'm just trying to make him look like he's a possum sitting on his little fat butt on your porch. Going, excuse me, can you please feed me special kitty because your cats ate it all. Which is about what all the possums around here do. So it doesn't take very much polyfill. Doesn't take very much at all. I've already got him really fat. I'm going to put just a little down in front of the pouch, down at the very bottom, just to kind of hide the shape of the Gatorade bottle. So I don't want everybody to know exactly what I used. Okay, and now it's shaped more like a little possum. So what we're going to do is we're going to now glue the sock to the top of the Gatorade bottle. And I've got to get a low heat gun because, oh my god, I burn myself every time I use my glue gun. It is a shame. David thinks I'm just absolutely accident prone, but what it is this glue gun is so freaking hot. Okay, and so I'm going to have to add a little bit more padding around the back of his head because that's where I tied that first sock and it looks like he's got like a brain injury. He was roadkill at some point in his life. Okay, so I have him packed. This is his little belly. This is where I'm going to cut out to make the hole. There's his little fat belly. Here's his little butt. You can move it around and even around. I'm fixing to glue this on up over his head. Then we're going to cut out the circle and glue it inside. Now I have a lot of paints. I have a lot of paints and I have a lot of fabric markers. I do not know if I'm going to paint him or if I'm going to felt the colors on him and then use the paint markers just for added like detail. I'll figure that one out when I get there because I don't really know what I'm gonna do. Ow, that was hot, hot, hot glue. I burnt myself. Still there, still driving, just burnt myself. Do be careful. So let's see, I've got to get this glued up here. Let's try this one more time. It is tricky. And I now got glue all over my freaking hands. Okay. Try this again. Pull it up. Stick. Okay, now that's better. And so probably what I'll do is when I get here, I'll probably stop for a while. And I'm going to have to play around. I'm going to probably glue the belly, the hole where I'm going to plant the plant. And then I'm going to have to play around with it for a little while and decide if I'm going to paint or if I'm going to use felt and then do detail paint. Haven't made my mind up. Do not know what I'm going to do yet. But I have to make his little head too. So that'll probably be something I do off camera because it will take both hands and a lot of concentration. Because that will take a lot of glue to get him stuck just right. So, well, I burnt the far out of my finger already. Doesn't take long when I'm using this stupid high heat glue gun. It is the most horrible thing. It's actually a really good glue gun. It's just a pain in the butt. It's just a pain in the butt. So, trying to get it stuck in here. So I don't know what this is going to turn out, but you all are always super interested in what I'm attempting. So since I feel better, this is what I'm attempting. I thought I would let you all know what I'm attempting. I don't know what he's going to turn out looking like. I don't know if it will be an epic fail or if it will be something that works. But I'm anxious to see because I've wanted this for a while now. And if you go on Etsy, they're all $60 and $70. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? I'm making it's going to be a possum planter if it works out right. So I'm taking a Gatorade bottle. I cut a hole to where I can put potting soil and put my little starts of my little plants that I start. And I wrapped him in one sock and I patted him with polyfill, and I've wrapped him in another sock, and now I'm trying to get it to glue at the top and stay glued. I may have to sew it, I don't know. I'm going to cut this open and glue it on the inside of the bottle a little bit. Then I'm going to try to make his head. But I don't know if I'm going to paint him or I'm going to do felt colors across the body and then use paint pens for extra detail. I don't know. Haven't made my mind up. But I've wanted one of these for a while. I can't wait until I make his little pink feet. And his little pink tail. That's going to be my favorite thing. Hi, Denise. So I just popped on, and I've already burnt myself with my glue gun, because I'm starting my possum plant holder. I've got a little bitty plant that I'm trying to start, and this was a Gatorade bottle. I wrapped it in a sock, and then I wrapped another sock, and I put polyfill around it to kind of fill it out, make it look like a, you know, little fat thing that was, if it's sitting down, a little fat back end of a possum. I've still got to make his head. And I'm going to cut this out, glue it on the inside, then I can fill it with pot and soil and start my plants. But I'm going to put a head on him, put a big pink tail, pink hands, but I don't know if I'm going to paint him or I'm going to use felt for spots and then use fabric markers for detail. But I've wanted one of these for a while, but they're like $50 to $70 on Etsy. No. Like the stuff I sell on Etsy, my artwork, my native artwork, and the furs and stuff David sells, we sell it pretty daggum cheap. And I look at other people that sell the same stuff, and they sell it, and it's like $389, and I'm like, whoa, you think a lot of yourself. So I don't always like to see what people price things on Etsy as, because they get a little carried away. So actually we had quite a big Etsy day yesterday and today. And so thank you. And we've had a couple more people hit the store, and I reloaded some keychains and stuff. And so it's been an interesting Etsy day for us. Been a very interesting Etsy day for us. And of course David's like, why don't you take a picture of the other coat he had? Why don't you do? And I was like, listen, I want to make something for me. I've been sick for how long? I'm going to make something for me. So I'm making my possum plant starter. I'm making his head now. Stuffed his little head. And what I'm going to do is turn it back over one more time. And then he has a little nose looking place there, but you can smash the back of his head a little bit. I'm such a nice person. Smash the back of his head. And I'm going to give him ears. I'm going to glue that a little bit. I'm going to give him ears, little felt ears. And I need a better glue gun. And then I'm going to have to determine how I'm going to paint him, because honest to Pete, I don't know how I'm going to paint him. I don't know if I'm going to use felt or if I'm going to sit here and mix paint colors and fade, and you know, that just seems a little tedious right now to me. So I don't know exactly which I'm going to do. But I'm fixing to give him his little ears. So on a good note, David's insurance absolutely were glad to terminate me. They were like, no problem. I guess I cost, you know, when they have to pay their portion, I cost them an arm and a leg. So they were like, absolutely no problem. So they're sending my termination letter. And so my new guy will be using that to use the loss of coverage to get my other stuff rolling. So I think that's going to go well. I hope. I think I'm going to give my possum gray ears. Does anybody really know? I've seen possums several times, but they always have like different colored ears. I think I want mine to have gray ears. I guess he's my possum. He can have whatever color ears I want him to have. I don't guess it matters. But I only have a little bit of gray, so I think I may make him gray ears. I think I may make them round. But yeah, David was super ecstatic today, and especially after all the misery of the Fur Trappers Association he went through yesterday, and the horrible pricing, and everybody just losing money, and so he was having a much better day today. He got called with a few people local wanting him to do a few tanned items. One guy was actually wanting him to do a steer, a 750-pound steer, and David was like, I do not know if I have the room to do a 750-pound steer. But it's really nice that people are comfortable with his work and, ask him to do those things. He got a lot of people asking if he would do stuff yesterday at the Fur Traders event, so he got a lot of contact information. And because he does stuff the old way, because his fur stuff is done the old way, he gets quite a bit of attention, which is nice because he deserves it. He really does. And so he had quite a bit of people take his number and ask, how do I reach you? Do you have a page, have a website? And luckily he was able to say, yeah, I have 2 Facebook pages, but my wife has a YouTube page. And so for the first time, I think, since I've had this YouTube page, my husband was like, that came in handy. And I was like, duh. Because I told him it would one day, but men, they don't always believe me. So he was able to hand out a lot of information yesterday, and whether we sell a whole lot of fur or not, because this year there was not a lot of fur trapped. A lot of the fur that was trapped was not worth keeping. The coyotes had the mange, and the bobcats were just, I don't know, they were just few and far between and not in the best of health. It seemed like it was just a really rough winter on all the animals. And so whether we sell a lot or not, if he can at least get to where he can tan for other people. I burnt myself again. I want a low temp glue gun so bad. If he can get to where he is at least tanning for other people, then that will be a little bit of money, and it's not completely hinging, on him trapping. Because sometimes the trapping is just not that good. And this year it was just not that good. We were lucky we live in an area that it wasn't probably as bad as other areas, but I'm just here to tell you, the coyotes did not look good this year. The bobcats did not look good this year. The raccoons did. They were fine. They were fat and sassy and full of piss and vinegar. But now the coyotes were just ugly, and they had a really bad mange, and we reported everything to the game warden. He came out and actually took some samples, And it was just really sad to see normally what is a really healthy, big, huge population that looks more like wolves look like, you know, a naked mole rat. It was really kind of sad to see what they ended up looking like. Okay, here's his little ears. So I have to put a nose and a mouth and eyes. And then I'll have to put him on here. And then I'm going to paint him and put his little pink hands and his little pink tail. I'm excited about how it's going to turn out. Just because I like weird things. People come into my house and I have lots of dead animals and lots of skulls and lots of strange things. And I always enjoy when people come into my house and they're like, okay, that is the first time I've ever seen anything like that. I get that a lot. So, I've actually got a huge otter. It's like a 44 or 45 inch otter, tanned, laced in a frame, and I'm gonna backlight it and hang it in the living room or the hallway. I've not quite made my mind up, but I'm gonna backlight it. And my husband absolutely hates it when I get artsy fartsy like that with the stuff that he frames. But I just think it's so much prettier. So I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here's his little face. Almost, you know, his little ears. He'll have little eyes, little nose, little mouth here where it's pinched. I've got to do more research on the color patterns because the ones we have up here are they're every different color but the right color. I call them the saber-tooth speed bumps. I only ever see them dead on the road, except for the ones that eat my special kitty on the porch. So I'm gonna have to do some research on the color patterns so that I make sure when I color him, when I paint him, or I do his spots, that I do the appropriate color. Because obviously we don't want him to be the wrong color. Ow. So there's going to be the hole. I have to stretch it and go inside and glue it. And so obviously I'm going to have to be like, I'm going to have to lay him on the back and use my canning jar funnel when I want to fill him with potting soil. I've got to get creative to keep him clean. But I just think it's going to be cute when I get it done. And that's all that matters to me. My husband, I irritate him to death with some of the things I make. But I don't care. I've been on a possum kick since I've been sick. I don't know why. I think it's because when Kim was sitting with me when I was really, really sick, she noticed like all of the possum stuff on Etsy for sale and all of the t-shirts and even earrings. And I was just like, I had no idea there was such a possum, like, I don't know, just like a possum following, a cult. And I love possums because they irritate the far out of me, so I absolutely adore them. Anything that irritates me, y'all know, I love it. And I thought, well, I can make one of those. I'm not going to buy that. I can make, you know, that's famous last words for me, if y'all know me. Famous last words. I'm not going to buy that. I can make that. And so she and I got to talking, and I was like, well, by golly, when I get to feeling better, I'll make that. So here I am, trying to make it. And I think what's going to be the hardest for me is to get the glue where the glue needs to go, because my glue gun is such a piece of garbage. Not even one. I need a new glue gun. It's on my wish list. David knows this. I have about killed this one. It's not going to make it much longer. I wanted to get his head glued on and his belly glued before I shut up for the moment. because I probably will not tape myself painting him, because I'm going to be... Ooh, I know how I can do this. Oh, I'll use this stick. I'm going to be probably figuring it out as I go. And so I don't really want to try to talk while I'm painting, because I don't know how that's going to go. I'm using a stick to rub hot glue up under the lid of this Gatorade, if y'all are wondering what I'm doing right now. And now I've got a huge glue snot string. Okay, let's see how bad I can burn my fingers doing this. It just needs to stick a little. Oh, it's stuck. Oh, it's sticking perfectly. Oh, that was almost better than I could have anticipated. Please do not burn me. So I've had a couple of days where I've been able to sit and do some crafty stuff, because I can't do very much else. Or like the house cleaning is just, it's just gonna have to wait for a little while until I get more energy, and my legs get a little bit stronger, my back gets a little bit stronger. But when it comes to doing some craft items and stuff like that, I've been able to sit, and as long as David has everything on the table for me by the time he leaves for work, or if he has it in my little craft basket beside me in the recliner by the time he leaves for work, then I'm good to go. I'll sit there and work all evening on something just to keep my mind busy. Because if you have a mind like mine and it doesn't stay busy, it causes bad things to happen. So he's been really good at trying to keep me occupied, because I'm not good when I'm not occupied. So A for effort for my hubby. He really tries. I am a difficult wife. I fully understand that. I am terribly independent, and when I lose my independence, it wigs me out, and it ticks me off. And I'm a rather large, boisterous woman, so when those two things happen, it's not pleasant for the people around me. And I think most of the insurance companies found that out the hard way this week as well, because I was not very nice to them. Like, one lady quoted me a price, and it was like $1,400 a month. And I said, oh my God, I said, a prostitute doesn't pay her pimp that much in commission, if you're looking at my income. And she's like, ma'am, I wouldn't know things like that, and I surely hope you would not either. And I was like, listen, honey, I'm an ex-parole officer. I know things like that. And you're charging me more commission than the pimps charge the prostitutes. So I don't know what that makes you, but I'm pretty sure you need a purple hat and a pink cane. And she was like, that's not very nice. And I was like, I didn't know being nice was a condition of this phone call. I thought you were going to enter into a contract to get me some insurance. So I'm not the nicest person when I'm irritated. And I was very mouthy to a few people because I knew what they were telling me was absolutely illegal. And so I got really testy with them. And they did not enjoy their time with me. But there is a time for aggression. You know, I'm all the time saying be nice and be good to each other, and you know, the smallest interactions can change somebody's life, and all that's true. But there is also a time for aggression, and there is also a time to stand up for yourself, and there is also a time to exhibit a protective stance over yourself. And that's where I found myself most of last week. And I don't like being there because my father was super aggressive. And so when I get aggressive, I feel like I'm acting like my father, which puts me back into a mindset I don't want to be in. Even though my dad is like 100% different now, and he's really fun to be around now. When he was a younger man, that was not the story. But I just don't like to be super aggressive because I have it within me to be an absolute mamma jamba. And I just don't like to be pushed there. But once pushed there, I will stay there comfortably until I win. And that's why I try not to go there. Because I will set up shop and we will have it out until somebody is victorious. And it's most likely going to be me. Because that's just how I am. But yeah, I don't like to normally be aggressive. But there is a time and a place in life where you have to be aggressive. And you have to stand up for yourself. And it exhausts me. It irritates me because it's not who I want to be, and it's certainly not who I enjoy being. But at the same time, if I have to be there, I'll gladly be there for a moment. But I really have to rest afterwards because it really does kind of take it out of me. And so I think that's why I have been crafting so much after all of that. Because it calms me down. After I've had to be a butthole, it really calms me down to make something that makes me smile. And that makes me giggle, makes me laugh, and makes me not, I've burnt myself again, makes me not take myself too seriously. Because I don't like to be a butthole. Because I'm really good at it, so I don't like to be a butthole. I prosecuted and sent people to prison for a decade. I'm really good at being a butthole. I just don't like to be there anymore. Because I'm not employed in that manner. I don't get paid for it, and I did not enjoy it when I had to do it, and I don't enjoy it now. But I do still have the ability to shift gears and turn into an absolute turd. And sadly, that's what I had to do this week to make sure that I was not being lied to. And I found out that I was being extorted by an insurance company. And then I found out that we were also being extorted by an HSA. They were trying to make it so convoluted that we could not get the bills in on time so that nobody would have to pay them. Or they would say they couldn't pay them. But I was like, listen, you have 120 days to professionally bill. And after 120 days, then I can give you the bill. And they're like, yes, but it lapsed over the end of the year. It doesn't matter. That is not anything that, no. I used to bill professionally. Do not start that with me. And so finally I got an email response from one of the CEOs from the company, and he was like, yeah, so if you'll get with me and send me the bill, yeah, we'll fix that. And I was like, yeah, I guess you will. Because I was still in turd mode. So and you know, David is just, he kind of looks like me. He looks at me and he's just like, get him, Tiger, you know. And he doesn't get mad very often, normally, because I will just take the lead and take care of it. But when he does get mad, he's never gotten mad at me. He's gotten irritated with me, but I mean, he's never gotten mad at me. I would hate to see that man mad at someone. Because he's so serious. I would hate to see him mad at someone. So I'm putting his head at a little bit of a cock so that when I put my funnel in to put the dirt in, his little head will kind of be out of my way. See what I'm doing here? And that way he won't be into, maybe won't get as, just burnt myself again. He won't get as dirty as I'm afraid he will get when I'm trying to put the plant in there. Miss Bossy Boots, you're back to normal. I'm getting there. If my legs had more strength and my back had more strength, I would almost be back to normal. But I pet around the house, and I'm like, well, I've got to sit down for a minute. My mouth is back to normal. My mouth and my attitude is, yeah, where it's fine. But now I'm still having a lot of weakness in my legs, but I'm able to get around. I'm not, not David checks on me, and I have to check in every so often. I have to send him something so he knows I've not gotten down somewhere. But I'm getting myself around, and I just don't spend a whole lot of time up. I made the decision to do like 3 loads of laundry the other day, and because of the back issue, by the time I had been over 3 times to empty the laundry, the next day I was just miserable again. And so now I do the laundry at like 10 o'clock at night, because it takes, I've got one of those HE really funky machines that sings to you. It's weird. But I have like I love my old style my dryer. I will not part with that thing until it dies. But I start my washing machine about an hour before David gets home, so that it dings about the time he walks through the door, and he can just throw it in the dryer for me. And then in the morning he can take it out of the dryer for me. So that doesn't, it takes away from me having to, because I'm short, bend over the top of the washer to dig stuff out, and then bend over to dig stuff out of the dryer. Okay, so let me get this clump of glue off right here that did not go to the right spot. Lord have mercy. Okay, so here's his little body. Here's his little head and his little ears. This is going to be his pinched nose and face, because, they look hateful anyway. So I don't know what color. I'm going to have to look at colors and stuff. This is the hole. So when he sits, I'm going to have to even out his little polyfill fat rolls. But when he sits, he will, from the back, look like a little fat possum. And I'll turn him sideways and fill the hole. And then I'm going to put my little variegated starter plant in here. But I don't know how I'm going to paint him yet. But I'm going to make his little, I can't wait to make the little pink feet and the pink tail. That's going to be my favorite part of this. But I've got to research the color pattern and what I'm going to do, if I'm going to do it in felt or if I'm going to mix paints and paint him. I don't know how talented I feel this evening for painting. But this is going to be my little possum plant holder. So this is made out of it's just a Gatorade bottle. And do you know how many empty Gatorade bottles I have after being as sick as I've been? A whole lot. And I was also saying you could use like a Culligan water bottle and get a soldering gun and melt a hole in it and make like a big pot to go on like your patio, and you can make like a pig, you can make a cow, a sheep. And just to make a larger head, you would need like, you could either get like a small, like one of those small play balls from Walmart, wrap it in aluminum foil, put modeling clay, air dry modeling clay over it, stick some ears on it, smooth it out with a wet finger, paint its little face on it, glue it on top of your Culligan water bottle, and you would have a huge one that, you could just paint and could withstand weather. Now, obviously, he's got fabric on him, so he's going to have to be an indoor possum. I don't know what I'm going to name him yet. I'm in love with his little ears. So, this is going to be his hands and his tail. This really bright pink color is going to be his hands and his tail. His tail will have wires, so it goes up in curls. But I've got to research the color pattern now and see how I'm going to paint him. But I'm hoping to get him painted later tonight or first thing in the morning, depending on how I feel. And that way I can get him potted tomorrow. And he's cute. I mean, he's homemade, like you can see the, I can cover that up with something in a minute. I can finish him off. But this is something that if you go on Etsy to buy things like this, they're like $70. Y'all, this is a Gatorade bottle and socks and polyfill. Don't pay people $70 for these things. The wreaths that I sell with my native stuff and my beading and the coyote faces and stuff, other people sell them for $1.99, $2.99, $3.99, and I'm like, why? I mean, I understand it means something to you after you make it, but why overprice it to the point where other people can't enjoy it, or only a few people of a select group can enjoy it? Price it, where you can make a few bucks, but don't like milk everybody. And that's just like the paper bag or the grocery bag holders that are the possums. They're $70. And I'm like, I will make a pattern if I have to go to my mother's and go, because I don't like patterns. I like to just wing stuff. My mother's a pattern person. So if I have to go to my mother and go, listen, I want a possum grocery bag holder, she will go, okay. And she'll just do it because she knows how I am. So I'm going to make those. And if I can make them where the pattern pieces are easy enough to either sew, or I can make them out of felt. I don't know if I'm going to make them out of cotton or out of felt. I don't know. I like the way that the felt looks when it hangs because it looks more realistic. But I like the cotton because it sew better and it would last longer. But anyway, the tail will have a wire in it where it hooks either on a nail or on your refrigerator handle, and you stuff it in its pouch. And then you just take them out of the pouch when you want one. I want one so bad I can't see straight. So me and Mom, if I have to go down there, she will help me come up with a pattern for it if I can't figure it out myself. A lot of people crochet them, and that's great. I would love to crochet one, and as soon as my tension gets better, I will probably attempt that as well. But my tension, because of my hands and the neuromuscular crap, my tension is not the best. So, yeah, I'm not going to like force myself to try to do something super important right now, because my hands are not functioning top notch. But now the crocheting, I will say, the crocheting is actually helping with my motor skills. So it is doing something beneficial for me. And so I will most likely continue doing it and keep doing it. I'm doing a rooster pot holder right now, and it's really pretty. I do the beginner patterns I can't do for crap. The intermediate patterns, not a problem. And I don't understand why. But that's how it works with me. So I'm going to give him a pink nose right now because that's what I want him to have. And I need to cover up this spot where I double the sock over. I need a new glue gun. I'm going to get one here very soon. So here is going to be his... I'll have to give him whiskers later, but there's this little pink nose. And I'll give him whiskers that will tuck underneath it, and then I'll have to draw his mouth underneath. And I may give him X eyes, because dead possum, they play dead. And I cannot wait to do his tail. And a matter of fact, when I get his tail done and wrapped and on him, I may take a picture and show you all. I don't think I have the wire in here. I'm going to have to go and find it. Because, it would be so unlike me to have everything I need. I do have a stick where I made that might work, where I made a wreath this morning. I've done a lot of crafting this morning. Thank God that this roller chair has a padded seat. Because let me tell y'all, my honey is so... I'm not gonna lie. Let's see if we can just do this real quick. Because even if it just hangs, even if it just goes straight up, the tail, that will still be cute enough for me. I'd like a curl, but I'm okay with it not curling. If it doesn't need to curl, it's okay. I will live. I most likely will live. So I'm going to make part of this to where it actually goes under his butt. So he sits on it and then the rest will come up. So I'm going to attach the stick up toward the top and glue it. And watch me burn the snot out of myself right now and get ready for cuss words. I will try not to, but y'all know when I burn myself. And it's just, you know, God gives me a vocabulary, I'm going to use it. It really hurts. It really, really hurts. Got to get a low temp glue gun. Got to. I was going to use wire, but I think this will work just fine. David is supposed to be harvesting me willow tomorrow. Let that dry for a second. He's supposed to be harvesting me willow tomorrow if the rain stops. We've got some young willow sprouts, and I'm going to, I haven't done it in years, but I'm going to weave some little willow birdhouses that look like the little teardrops, or they look like the little ovals. But what I'm going to do to some of them is I'm going to make them, but then I'm actually going to, on the top, I'm going to leave, where the willows come together and go up like that, I'm going to leave it because in the top I'm going to put the little solar battery for little copper lights, and I'm going to thread the little copper lights through the birdhouse. So number one, it lights up, it's pretty. Number two, the eggs and the birds that lay the eggs in the springtime have a little additional warmth from the lights. And it will just look really, really cute hanging from the tree. So that's what I'm going to do. And I think I'm going to make Ryan's mama one for Ghost Ranch, because I just think it would look so cute on her porch. Her porch is just got that old comfortable vibe where you just kind of sit and watch the birds come back and forth and build their nest. And I just thought I'm going to make her a willow woven birdhouse, because I think it would just absolutely suit her. I'm gonna make it kind of a small one though, and then I'm gonna make me a rather large one to hang from my pine tree and light up, because I actually have red-breasted bluebirds that nest here, and it took me forever to get them started here. And so I do tend to baby them and make them really nice houses. And honestly, just treat them like royalty. David gets kind of irritated with me. But I feed them every year, and I make sure that their houses are either the gourd houses, which they love, or they're the woven houses that they really, 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 really love to live in. So I think I'm going to weave her some. And I think I may put a couple on Etsy if they turn out really good. I think I may put a couple on Etsy for sale, because they last for like 3 or 4 years. So yeah, I'm on my roller seat right now at the table. That's why I feel like I'm propped way up. So I have it to go through the house on, and I sit at the sink when I do the dishes in it, and I use it to get around, but it doesn't go everywhere in my house because I have a tiny house. So there are times when I have to, you know, like roll it and set it aside, and just try to do the best I can to get where I'm going. But for the most part, when David is gone to work, I stay either in our bedroom, in the kitchen, or the living room. So I try to avoid going down the very narrow hallway unless I absolutely have to. And I just try to avoid it. It's just better if I avoid it. So I only go to the bathroom when I absolutely have to. And I take baths when David is home. And hopefully by next month, when they get my at-home care approved, that will be something that I don't have to worry about anymore. Because I will have somebody here specifically for those events. And David will not be worn ragged trying to take care of me and work and do everything else that the poor man does. I mean, the poor man is basically Superman. He does everything. And I feel really bad. I mean, he doesn't mind taking care of me, and he tells me all the time that it's just his job. But I do feel really bad that he loses a lot of his enjoyment time away from work because he has to take care of me. Because, you know, as much as he works, he really needs that time to just kind of let his brain relax. Because I remember when I worked all those hours and I just needed time every day to just let my body and brain, you know, vent. I needed to do something I could enjoy so that my body and my brain did not overwhelm me. And I don't think he gets enough time. That's why I forced him, Kim and I forced him to continue checking his traps when I was sick. She stayed with me and was like, no, you go on and check your traps. You know, keep doing what you're doing, because she knows it's part of our income and that it's necessary. But she also knows that the poor guy was going crazy. So I have great friends. Kim is amazing, and if I needed her if I called in 5 minutes, she would be here with bells on. So I have really awesome, great friends. And you know how these little possum tails, they look like wiry and not kind of disjointed sometimes? I'm trying to make it look like that. I don't know if I'm just making a mess or if I'm succeeding, but I guess somebody will tell me eventually. And if I have to redo it, it's not a big deal. I'll just take it off and redo it. I am just trying to make it look like their little nubby, icky, nasty tails. I'm sure most of y'all, if you've seen a possum tail up close, they are not attractive at all. I mean, possums are cute. Don't get me wrong. Possums are cute. But there's just parts of them that you're just like, I don't know why the good Lord did that. So, my mother always said that she couldn't wait to get to heaven to understand some of the things that she questioned in her life. I guess why possum tails are so ugly will be one of the things I question. Not quite sure the good Lord is ready to answer some of the questions I have. He'll probably be like, Elizabeth, just go to your mansion and shut up. And I'll be like, okay. But I will have those questions. Yeah, Dave's a great guy. He's getting better at video. He's a sweetie pie. Like, he adopted, we hadn't been married 3 months and he adopted my kids. They waived the 3-month waiting period because the judge that handled our adoption knew David because David had been a deputy. And so the judge that did our adoption was like, you know, 6 month waiting, waived. And he looked at my ex-husband and he was like, I don't know what kind of sack of sorry you are, but I know this young man and I know that he will raise these kids. And he said, I approve this adoption today. And I was just, I just, the weight that was lifted off of me when that judge did that. And he's dead now. God rest his soul. He was a great man. But the weight off my shoulders that day, I still can remember how I felt, because I went in there afraid that after we had to, he had been a co-petitioner and asked for his rights to be taken away. But I was afraid that after we had done all of that and paid for all of that, that he was still going to then back out and just to have costed us a lot of money and a lot of heartache. I thought it was just, him being malicious. And so I was terrified that day. And lo and behold, he went through with it. He had 5 chances to back out per the state of Tennessee. He never did. And then that final day, they slapped the gavel. And I was the happiest and most just relieved mother on the planet, because my kids had just been through so much. Just because of stupidity and hormones and people not understanding what adulthood is really about. Okay, so here's his front, his little nose. There's his little tail. It looks like a paws and tail, don't it? Those little ugly paws and tails? I might even draw little rings on it with my fabric marker. I really wanted it to curl, but I'm okay. This is my first one. He's a prototype. I'm going to live with it. I'm going to rest for a little while, and then I'm going to research colors, color patterns, and I'm going to see how I need to paint him. And then my hope is to get him painted. Look, when he sits down, his little tail is just going to be straight up. Isn't that cute? My hope is to get him painted and get his little face on. And yes, he will probably have X's for eyes because Possums play dead. But I want to have him potted tomorrow. I want to have my little variegated plant because it's rooting. I'm gonna get it potted. I hope to have him potted tomorrow. And he will be the perfect size to start my little variegated plant. It's a variegated vining plant. So, and when I get the willow harvested, I'm going to be making some obelisk for, I did a random rash thing on eBay the other night and ordered Morning Glories and Vining Black Susans, because I cannot flower garden anymore, so I container garden. So I'm going to get those huge pots that David has to pack around, and I'm going to put them beside my patio by my little pool, and I'm going to put the obelisk in them, and I'm going to start the seeds and then move them, transition them, and I'm going to have Vining Black Susans and Morning Glories by my pool. So that's the plan. Probably need to make one for my Queen Elizabeth Rose because it's getting kind of peaked. It's leaning really bad. But we'll see. We'll see how much willow we get harvested. But my first order is going to be some birdhouses. So this is my little possum. Isn't it cute? He needs a name. I may fix his ears a little bit. I don't know. I really like his ears, but I may fix his ears. Paint job. That's next. I don't know what his name's gonna be. I don't know. I think it needs to be like Mortimer for like rigor mortimer, because they like to play like they're dead, rigor mortis. So maybe his name's gonna be Mortimer. Call him Morty for short. But it's going to take me a long time to paint him, and I'm going to have to be super careful, so I'm not going to do that on here. I'm going to take a break, research, make sure I get the color scheme right. because I don't want them to end up looking like a pinto mouse. And we've got to look at the mouth. I've got to get the mouth right, and I may end up having to trim his nose down a little bit, but I'm going to get the mouth right. And I probably will have to pinch and shape his face a little bit more, and I may even have to get a needle and thread and pinch it a little bit, but that'll be okay as well. But I'm really tickled so far with what he looks like. So tomorrow, expect to see what he finishes out as, and hopefully I'll have him painted and potted, and when I do, I will post photos. So we'll see what Mortimer turns out to be. I may have to make some to sell. You know, sell these things for 20, 25 bucks, and people love kitschy stuff like this. And it's just because they think they can't sit down and make it themselves. I'm like, sit down and make it yourself. You can do it. This is a Gatorade Bottle 2 Socks Polyfill and Felt. It's like, make it yourself. Yeah, I'm drinking plenty of fluids. I'm actually drinking mineral water. I'm drinking a lot of electrolytes right now. I have to. This is my last day of antibiotics, so thank God I'm almost over that, because they absolutely kill me. And so I'm thinking over the next week I should perk up pretty good. I'm hoping by midweek I might feel a little bit more energetic, because the antibiotics just wipe me out, which is why I'm fixing to have to probably lay down and rest. They wipe me out. But it helps me when I feel good to do stuff like this, because it's just stupid. And when you deal with such serious health issues, you just need to do stupid things. Like somebody, I made a joke, was like, hey Ryan, yell at me so I can interview you before the, before the Lord tries to call me home again, because I've almost died twice in 3 months. And the one guy was like, I shouldn't have laughed at that, but I did. And I was like, dude, it's okay. I laughed. I laughed. I've been told around 6 times to prepare that I'm not going to make it. And I'm like, after the first time, you pretty much, it hits you, and you're, and I'm lucky. I was raised in church. I had all of my friends were at church. I was constantly in vacation Bible school. I had, I had a great church family. So I had a very strong, I had a very strong conviction, at a young age. And I was baptized at 12. And I've always been in church, sang in church. My dad had a radio gospel program. We sang. I played the fiddle. I played the mandolin. And so, I have no problem with death. Like the one time I was really close. My ammonia levels had gotten so high, and I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and the doctor would come in and he would just like, let's try one more day. Let's just try one more day. And I was like, okay, we'll try one more day. And he was like, no, really try. And I'm like, I'm really trying, And he was terribly worried, and he was terribly, and I did. My body got to where it was fading, and I was sleeping a lot, and I was weak, and things were not making sense. But it felt like my mind was gearing up and packing for a mental trip to go on vacation to a very familiar place. It wasn't scary. It was weird, but it wasn't scary. So I've never been like super scared, because, next to birth, dying is the most natural thing you do. It's the stuff in the middle that wigs me out. All the decisions and financial issues and people squabbles and nuclear bombs and crooked politicians. That's what wigs me out. The beginning and the end, I'm cool with that. So, but yeah, I've had several close calls, and luckily I've been healthier the last couple of years, because my pancreas, they kind of got it figured out. But the mastoiditis just completely sunk my battleship last year, and I did not get my battery charged back from it. David looked at me the other night and he's like, if something happens to you, I will not remarry. And I was like, how could you? Everyone will be so boring compared to me. But bless his heart, he worries sometimes about me. But I don't know. I've talked to my entire family, and they know if anything ever happens to me, I'm good. I'm at peace. I'm packed up and ready to go. I'm good. I don't want to go. I want to be here and be sassy McSassy Pants for as long as I most possibly can be. But since I've had this illness and I've had to face a lot of issues, you just make peace with that. You make peace with it, and you understand it's part of what everyone's going to have to deal with it at some point. I just may have to deal with it earlier than others. And so I'll deal with it. It's not anything that I fear. I fear more about my family functioning afterwards. So I've raised terribly independent children, and I've been terribly honest with them about my health and terribly honest with them about how serious it is. And because I don't want anything to spring on them and really harm them and stop their growth, as young adults. So we talk about it a lot, and I fight every day tooth and nail. But at the end of the day, if something happens and I don't, this stupid RSD gets me, I'll go down fighting. I'm belligerent, but it'll be okay. I will be okay. So, but, I'm, like my doctor says, my best quality is my belligerence. So, and somehow I keep bouncing back. And this time took longer, and it scared me for a few days, but I bounced back. And as long as I keep bouncing back, then I'm going to keep smiling and laughing and having fun. And I'll worry when the bad times happen, but I'm going to celebrate and be happy when the good times happen. Because it's a waste of time to be scared all the time. There's no point in it. There's nothing you can do. It's a waste of time. Why live in that emotion? I don't want to live in that emotion. I'll visit there when need be, but I'm not going to live there. And that's just kind of the peace I've made with that. But I'm a very pig-headed, hard-nosed kind of person. So that's just kind of where I am. But, my son looked at me and he was like, so you're not scared of death? And I said, do you remember before you were born? And he said, no. I said, did it hurt? He goes, I don't know, I don't remember. I said, okay. I said, so even if everything we believe is wrong, set that aside. Why would you then think when you exit the world it's going to hurt, or it's going to be painful, or there's something horrible? And he's like, I never thought about it like that. I said, so now put our beliefs there. And if our beliefs, are valid, and this is, we are preparing for this, then what is there to fear? And he's like, you look at things very different than most people, Mom. And I was like, I've had a very different life than most people. So, but it is all about perspective. And when you have been told 6 or 7 times to prepare to not go home, to prepare to tell your loved ones it's not looking well, you just get really comfortable with talking about tough things. But it's better to talk about them. Like, the thing that hurt me the most about my friend that I lost in December was that he refused to talk about it. And I can't help but think that I could have comforted him in so many ways if he had just chose to talk about it. If he had just chose to trust somebody and talk about it. Whether it would have changed anything or not, it would have alleviated some of that tension on his body and some of that anxiety and some of that upset. And I mean, I know he was angry because he was ill. But he didn't talk about it. And so I have a very communicative family. We talk about everything. So we've talked about everything. And when my daughter hugged me goodbye, and she was like, I hope you get better, Mom. She's like, this is the sickest I've ever seen you. And I said, my goal right now is to live through November because she gets married in October. So I need to get through to November. And then in November, I will set a new goal. And that is kind of how I gauge my world. Because I do have the upsets every couple, 3 months. And I have to kind of mentally prepare for them. But I set little goals. So for me, my biggest goal is to get through November. That way I will have gotten through her wedding celebration, and see her happy. And then I will set my next goal. And it will be probably to get through the holidays, because I do enjoy the holidays. The hardest time of the year for me is February and March because they suck. It's nothing but snow and cold, and it hurts my neuromuscular disorder, and that's when I really have a lot of issues. But as soon as the sun starts coming out and I get out in the sun and I get more consistent temperatures and I get less barometric pressure, big swings, I do better. And so I enjoy the spring and the summer much more, and I almost sometimes feel normal, which makes me very happy. So if I can recharge my battery this spring and summer, which I did not get to do last year with the mastoiditis, I was on way too many antibiotics that just kept my body broken down. This year I hope to recharge my battery, and so I will go into next fall and winter at a much healthier place. So I'm planning on making sure that every day counts this spring and summer, getting through the fall, through her wedding, and that way I'll have a healthier winter. And if I can make it through February and March again, then when April turns around, we can start getting warm days, and I can start, and I have one of those lights I sit in front of during the winter, but it's just not the same. It's just, I need the outdoor sunlight. I need to hear the kids in the neighborhood playing. I need to hear the dogs barking. I need to hear the donkeys on the farm across the holler braying. I need those things. And so when you're in the house and sick, it's very difficult to have those things. Well, thank you. Thank you, Raider. That's very sweet. I was mad for a solid 2 years after I was diagnosed because it took them 6 years to diagnose me, so I missed a lot of the preemptive care that could have stopped the nerve degeneration. So I was very mad for a couple of years. I was very irritated, but I had to move past that. So it took a lot of work. And still some days I revert back to being that little petulant kid that sits in the recliners like, ugh. Some stupid doctor had his head swiveled on right one day, and this wouldn't have happened, and I can still, visit that, I just don't stay there. I stay normally in a much happier, healthier place. Even when I'm sick, I'm so thankful that I have friends. I'm so thankful that I have help. I'm so thankful that I'm not as bad as most of the people that I know with this condition. And I'm just thankful that I have a husband that will do laundry and wash dishes and help, and will look at me and say, let the house go until you feel better. It's okay. I'm just lucky. And like Lane came over to check on me yesterday. I hadn't seen him in probably a month because he's been so busy. He came over yesterday evening to check on me, and I was asleep, and he didn't want to wake me up to visit with me because I've not been resting well at night. And so I didn't get to see him. And I wish now he'd woken me up because I hadn't seen him in a month almost. But he said that after it rained today, he would most likely have to take a day off because you don't want to climb trees after a lot of rain because the root ball, you'll fall. And anyway, so I'm hoping that he'll get to come out and see me tomorrow morning at least before it dries out a little bit. And so I get to see him. But now Haley came home for a weekend while I was sick. And cleaned up my kitchen and made some banana bread and helped do some laundry and clean the bathroom and just tried to just straighten up for me in between taking care of all of her. She's in her senior year at UT, so in between taking care of all of her classwork online that she could do and all her homework, she just jetted home for a weekend and just tried to help, which I really appreciated. But she's super busy, and she will end up living in southern Georgia. So, but we're lucky because her fiance loves to visit here, so they will be here probably quite a bit. Matter of fact, I think I've talked to him more this week than I've talked to her. He's a good guy. So, I'm blessed. I have crappy health. But the rest of my life is pretty dadgum good. I don't have a lot, but I enjoy what I have. I think I have a simple, good, happy, wholesome, a happy heart life. I don't have a happy bank account, but I have a happy heart, and I have a happy family, and that's what matters. So, money comes and goes. Yeah, we had a lot of talks because I stressed to my son to not waste money, and I was like, cremate me. I was like, it's the cheapest way, cremate me. I find some comfort knowing that somebody's not going to dig me up in 1,000 years and go, well, this rather large woman had very bad legs and a pelvis that was tipped, and and Lane will just kind of laugh at me. And I'm like, don't pay for a casket. Put me in a cardboard box. My goodness, you're just going to burn it. Don't burn a $2,000 casket. Burn a cardboard box. And my son is just like, how can you talk about things like this? And I'm like, honey, this is not me. I will be long gone. And nothing is going to last. Whether you put it in a sealed box in the ground or it's just not going to last. So just cremate me. And I said, have somebody put me in a paper bag. Give it to one of my friends that still rodeos or ropes, because I haven't been able to ride horses in like 6 years, ever since I had all my leg surgeries and gained so much weight. And that was my happy place. My home was in my saddle on my horses. That was where I belonged. That was where when my butt touched my saddle, my head met God. And that's where I belonged. That's where everything made sense to me. And so, I've ridden since I was 3, and I normally spend probably 6 to 10 hours a day on horseback between the ages of 12 and 20. And I rode when I was pregnant with Lane until I was 6 months pregnant, and my belly touched the stirrup when I was trying to mount, and I had to stop. So I said, put me in a bag and give me to one of my friends that still ropes and rodeos. I said, have him haul the horse down to the cattle farm. And I said, have him test the wind, run against the wind, and tip that bag and just spread me over the cattle pasture. I will be completely happy with that. That would be fine with me. And I would have one last really good ride. And my son's like, okay. And he was like, I was thinking about packaging you in 12-gauge shotgun and shells and blowing you into the air. And I was like, that's like 6 pounds of ash. That would take a whole lot. We don't want to have a small war. Just, send me out on horseback in style. So we've talked about everything, because I did not want David to try to lavish, have a big lavish ceremony. Because it's useless. I know that funerals are for the living and not for the dead, and so you need to get together and you need to mourn and have your closure, but it doesn't have to be a financially damaging event. And so I've stressed that to both my children. I've stressed it to my husband, but I've stressed it to both my children too, because they pay more attention to their mother when it comes to that topic, and because I know it will comfort them to know that I didn't want a big hoopla at the end. So they won't feel bad if they can't give me everything. I don't want everything. What's the point? I will not know. Just get together and comfort each other, and, you know, that's it. Yeah, you need to have those talks with your family. You need to know all the burial options in your state. I would be completely okay with a green burial. I just don't know where they would plant me. But I actually find comfort that nobody in like 1,000 years would dig me up and go, well, this moderately obese woman had bad legs, a bad pelvis, a tipped pelvis. She had a damaged back, and I don't want to be laying on an archaeologist's table and, 1,000 years looking down from a window from heaven going, would you stop? That's rude. So I have no problem. I have no problem with cremation. Um, and my son thinks that's hilarious, like the way I describe it. But, I don't like tiny spaces anyway, so that's one thing. But I also find comfort in that there will be nothing really organic, honestly, really very little left on the earth of me. And I find that comforting. And my husband doesn't get that. And I said, that's fine, you don't have to get it. But, he's got a burial plan. His parents have had a burial plan for him since they bought everything when they were little. They're one of those people. And I said, if it makes you feel better, you can inter my ashes next to you and get us a double header stone so that I will be next to you. I said, if that will make you feel better, that's fine. I said, but I just would rather not. I would rather be cremated. I would just don't, And plus all the toxins that go into the ground. Funeral graveyards, cemeteries are the most toxic environmental places because of everything we do to what we place there. And it's just so bad for the environment. And so I'm one of those people. I would be composted and growing hay if it was left up to me. But my husband's different. And, and I think I think he wants me next to him, which is fine. I understand that. But I've told him, I'm like, inter my ashes. You can go however you want to go, but inter my ashes next to you. So. Yeah, and it's and a lot of families just have to do what they think is best because they don't have these conversations. And it's sad, because then they're left with a lot of emotions that could have been already rectified, set aside, dealt with, so that they could have a more streamlined grieving process. And then they have to handle things that they did not anticipate, and they have to handle questions they don't want to hear. And I have a very close friend that's a mortician, and I know all the things they do to you to prepare you for burial, and I'm like, no thank you. I don't even like to wear makeup. No thank you. I don't want anything sewed closed. I don't want any eye caps. I don't want any filler. No thank you. I don't even wear makeup. So I'm more of an au naturel person, I guess, when it comes to that. And it really irks my mother. Like, it really irks my mother for some reason. But she's coming around to it now since she's caring for her mother. And Granny is doing really well, but her body, she doesn't take any huge medications. Everything's working, but her swallowing and chewing is getting slower, and sometimes her heart will become a little erratic every few days, and it's probably just the Alzheimer and dementia and just the natural progression of things. And so I'm trying to prepare my mother, because every time I see my granny, I kiss her and say, if I don't see you sooner, I'll see you later. And she'll kind of look at me, and I know she knows what I'm saying because she looks at me and she'll give me those little twinkle in her eyes. She's got the same mischievous smile that I have. I got it from her. Lots of times when I haven't seen her for, quite a while, when I walk in and visit and I smile, she'll touch her cheeks because the joke was I got her cheeks. And, but I always tell her if I don't see you sooner, I'll see you later. And when she's not feeling well, I always lay down and I whisper, because she lost my grandpa. I was 10 months old when my papa died, when her husband died. So my mother lost her father when I was 10 months old. He had brain cancer. He had one of the first spider vein brain tumors that UT in Knoxville had ever seen. And matter of fact, Granny donated his brain for them to study. And that was really hard on my mom. So she's only ever had Granny. And me and Granny were terribly close. But she has mourned the loss of her husband for all these years. She was alone for all these years, and he was tragically, he was diagnosed and he was gone within 3 months. You know, within a month he couldn't remember anyone's name. He called my mother baloney. For the last 2 months he was alive, he couldn't remember anybody's names. He just called her baloney because that was just the first thing that came to his mind. And he used to be an engineer on the railroad, and he was, you know, a very capable, strong man. And his name was Dolphin. They called him Dop. And his mother's name was Florida, and his dad's name was Juber. I'm telling you what, I got some names in my family. But she's missed him. She's mourned him. And I've listened to her tell me stories about him. She kept his clothes until Mom cleaned the house out not too many years ago when she got really sick. She kept all of his clothes. She kept all of his pocket watches. She kept he would have oil paintings commissioned of his railroad depots because he loved being an engineer. And I have very much set my claim on one of those photos because I want it, because it's always reminded me. It's set above his empty chair in the house for years, and that's always been Papa's picture, and that's always been the picture I've wanted, and so I was told, yes, you can have it. But I've watched her mourn being alone and pining for him. She never remarried, and he was the love of her life. And she is 90, almost 91 years old. And so when I tell her, you know, gotta go, Granny, I love you, and I lean over and give her sugar, and I say, I'll see you sooner I'll see you later if I don't see you sooner. And I say, okay, and she'll kind of look at me and shake her head and kind of twinkle in her eyes. And the last time I saw her, she was really sick. She was having a really bad heart spell, and she wasn't swallowing very good. And I said, Granny, I said, I've got to have some tests done, and I'm not feeling very well. It'll be a while before I can come back down and help take care of you. And I said, if something happens and you have to go, I said, I understand. I said, hug Papa for me, and I'll see you soon. And she was crying. She was tearing up. And she hugged me. She doesn't always understand what we say, but she understood me that day, and she hugged me. She reached for me and hugged me. And Mom was like, what did you say to her? I don't get that response. And I told Mom what I said. And my mom broke down, and I took her in the other room. And I said, Mom, you're providing excellent care. Better care than skilled nursing could provide. My granny was in such horrible condition when we got her home on hospice. We got her home the day before they locked the nursing home down again. We barely got her out of there. And she was bruised, and she was impacted, and she was, she was so sick, and she's so healthy now. She's doing so well, but her body's just giving out. It's almost a century old. And Mom was just beside herself. She said, I don't get that reaction from her. And I said, Mom, you're doing everything you're supposed to do. You're going above and beyond. You're being the absolute best daughter possible. You're going to get through this. I said, but have you told her it's okay for her to leave? And she said, no. And I said, you might need to tell her that. I said, because she's bedbound. She's got to wear a catheter all the time. We have a big one of those slings to move her from the bed to a chair in the living room, to one of those lift chairs, so she can be in a different room. She's basically nonverbal unless I can irritate her to make her yell at me. And I can make her yell at me. I had her in the sling pushing her down the hallway. She's hanging in that sling, and I'm pushing her down the hallway to get her to the chair. And I said, Granny, I've got to turn you, so don't let me scare you. I've got to turn you so I can lower you into the chair. And I turned her and she grabbed that pole. And me being who I am, said, somebody come get her. She's dancing like a stripper. And she looked at me and I said, it's a song, Granny. I'm just making a joke. She was so mad at me, but she was still kind of glinting in those eyes. But she'd be like, and then she kind of smiled. And I was like, I know it was funny, wasn't it? And so I know she's still in there, and I can get her really mad. And when I got her in the chair, she kind of smacked my hand, and she was like, don't do that again. So I get a lot of reactions out of her that Mom doesn't get, but Mom doesn't understand that because she cares for her day in, day out, she's become furniture. So Granny doesn't trigger her brain the way that interaction with a fresh face and a fresh voice does. And Mom doesn't always want to use the stuff that will trigger the memory. She doesn't want to play the songs that will trigger memories. She doesn't want to play the music that will trigger memories, because my papa played the fiddle. And if Mom will hear a fiddle song that Papa played, she will end up crying. And I'm like, I don't care if you end up crying. Play it so that she will remember. And Mom's just not been able to overcome her emotions to do some of those things. And so I try to help her as much as I can, but, and I've told her, I was like, I know you're struggling, and I'm going to be here struggling when it's my turn to do this, I was like, if unless I go first, which is completely plausible, but she's having a hard time, and but I love to see. Granny was my person. I would lie and tell my mother that I had a tummy ache so I could stay home from kindergarten so I could watch The Price is Right with Granny and pick the beans in the garden and eat green beans and baby taters. That was the life for me. I wanted to stay with my granny. We would pick beans in the garden and we would sing gospel hymns, and we would get in a rhythm and sing gospel hymns and pick the beans and check the carrots and pull up the onions. And then we would make us a big pot of green beans, and she always called them baby taters. But what I didn't know was she was taking the big taters and cutting them into what we thought were baby taters. I always thought she just had baby taters. The woman lied, but she was good at it. But she was always my person, and we were terribly close. And we had a lot of inside jokes. And it makes me happy sometimes when she still catches those inside jokes. But for the most part, there are days when we do not get responses. And it hurts me when I'm down there and I help Mom roll her to change her and clean her. And I know it's painful for her and her body, just because she is, immobile. I know it's painful for her and her body when we are rolling her and cleaning her and dressing her and doing everything. And I can tell in her face that she's ready to go. I can tell that she's ready to go. She's done what she's supposed to have done here, and she's ready to go. But I don't think she will go until Mom has that talk with her. And I keep trying to prod my mother to say, Mom, tell her it's okay. Tell her it's okay. And my mom will just burst into tears every time. And I tell her it's okay, Mom, I understand. You're not being greedy. You're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. And I said, this has become your life. This has become what gives you your momentum. This is what has given you your identity. You have become a caregiver. And what comes next is terrifying because you don't know. And you don't know what life will be like without a parent. And I said, I understand all the fears. I said, but you can't stop it. And if you don't start to make peace with it, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks and you're going to crumble. And I said, I need you to start working through the emotions now. And so we talk every few days. But you can't counsel your own family. It's like the mechanic can't fix his own car. So I have to kind of drop little seeds, and then she will go and talk to other friends and have the rest of the conversations. So I think she's doing better lately, but it's still a huge concern for me. because my granny is my person, but I don't want my person here if she's in pain. And my mom, even though I was raised in church, and and she's the one that instilled all of this in me, I think for her it's about self-worth and identity, and what she will become when she loses the ability to care for that person, because she's literally cared for my great aunt Ola and now my granny for the last 10-13 years. And that's scary. The unknown is probably scarier in some ways than losing her mother. So I understand. No, she's not ready to let her go at all. She's not ready to let her go at all. And I think a lot of it is because of the unknown. She doesn't know what she will become, who she will be without that task to do, without that job to complete, without that identity to maintain. She is a caregiver. My mother is a caregiver. And I don't think she knows who's next for her to care for. My dad is, 70, but he'll still get out and walk 3 miles, check the cows, chase the chickens, deer hunt, coyote hunt, trap hogs. You never know where Dad is. He's on the Kubota out in the farm somewhere, and you just wait for him to come home. My dad still looks like he's 50, 55, and he's 70. Of course, he was a hard worker most of his life. He was a blacksmith, so he was under horses most of his life. But Mom's always been a teacher, an educator, and a caregiver. So her role has always been very much one of worrying about others before she worries about herself. And for me, I've told her, I said, are you just worried about what comes next? And if you are not going to be useful? Because she gets a lot of her identity from being useful to others. And I said, we will find you someone to be useful to. We will find you something to do. We will find you a group. We will find you a cause. We will find you something. And so she's starting to talk about it more. And I make sure every day to talk to her and ask about the swallowing, the heart rate, the blood pressure, just to make her verbalize the changes and the ups and downs, because it makes her have to acknowledge them. Because normally the nurse will tell her, but she doesn't have to repeat it. It doesn't become real. When she has to tell me, it becomes real. So I ask her every day about that, so she has to acknowledge it. And I think that's helping a little bit. But, yeah, it's going to be rough when we lose Granny. And oddly enough, I think I'm going to find some peace with it, because I've watched her mourn. I watched her mourn for her husband and pine for her husband for so many years, and I know how much she's missed him because she's talked to me about it. But I don't know if my mother's going to find that peace very quickly. I think it's going to take her longer. So I'm going to be on Mama watch after that. And that's another reason I need my health to be better, because right now my mother's healthier than I am. Well, that sink in for a minute. And she's 70. So let that sink in for a minute. But gosh, how did we get on this subject? That was like deep. We had all roll our britches up and wade into that one. I was making a possum planner and we went on a death ramble. What happened? Well, possums play dead. Maybe we just, you never know what's going to prompt conversation. But it was a good conversation. If you have not had a conversation with your family about your idea of death, what you think you want to do upon you leaving this earth, what you think is necessary to do with your remains, what you would find most applicable to follow your desires and your ideas of what needs to, please have these conversations, and please make sure that you assign someone as the person that handles that you can trust. Otherwise, it will go to your next of kin, And if that's not the person you've had your conversations with, they're not going to know what to do, and they're going to do it their way, and your wishes will not be followed. So make sure you meet the criteria, and the person that you share your plans with is the person that you list as the person that is going to be signed off and approved to make those decisions for you. Very important. Yeah, I don't like to be in the hospital either. I understand why people don't like to be in the hospital. It's my least favorite place to be ever. But I'm very much an empath, and so when I'm there, I literally feel overwhelmed with everyone else's issues. Like you can, I don't know, it's just like you can feel everyone else's fear and anticipation and agony, and I do not like hospitals. I'm very much a sponge in certain situations, and that's one of them. And I do not like hospitals for that reason. I'd very much rather be home sick and deal with it at home. But I should have been in the hospital this last time, but it was just not feasible because of the issues that's going on in our medical system. So I can understand that. The hospital does. They bring you that tea, and it's like no sugar, no ice cubes. I don't know. I can't eat any hospital food. And of course, most of the time I'm there, I'm NPO anyway, so I can't eat. But even the smell of the food that they bring out to other people when I'm there and I'm NPO is like, ugh. So I never have enjoyed the hospital. But every time I leave the hospital, I want a Route 44 cherry limeade from Sonic. That's what I want, with extra cherries. That's what I want. I'm strange, but that was a deep conversation. Well, I guess now everybody knows how I feel on the subject, but this is a good conversation. I think it's something everybody needs to talk about, and there's no reason to be scared about it. My God, you come into this world without any knowledge that you're coming into the world. I have every idea that when you leave the world, it's, it can't be any scarier. Especially if my belief system is on par, it can't be any scarier. So I think the middle is the scariest, and the hardest to navigate. And I think it's because I talk about it, I've had to deal with it, I've had to think about it, I've had to process, and I've had to have long talks with God. And I think that's why I do better than most people at it. But it is a very important conversation to have with your loved ones, especially if you have health issues, because it can put them in a bind. I had a family that recently lost. He had been married and had a bunch of children, but then he left and started over, left the kids with her. They had not really been close. He had a very traumatic traffic accident. He was killed instantly. The new wife did not help with the funeral at all. She just acted like she couldn't do anything. And all of his kids from his first marriage that he did raise for a while but was not super close with and was not taken care of, they all split the bill and dealt with the funeral. And then people were trying to send money to the wife, and she was completely misusing it. It was not going to the funeral. And so we just, as a community, all rounded up and was like, we need to pay this bill. These children don't need to be saddled with this. We need to pay this bill. And as a community, we paid it in like 4 days. And that's just where I'm from. And I'm happy to be from a place that loves each other that much. I mean, they're just a great family. And I put on my wall, this family would stop and do anything for anyone at any time. If you can give $5, $10, give what you can give. Go up there, give it straight to the funeral home. Do not give it to any family member. Go straight to the funeral home. Make sure it's applied. Get a receipt. And help this family. And within like 4 days, it was paid. And I'm like, that's why I live where I live. Even though it aggravates the holy crap out of me sometimes. That's why I live where I live. we have good people. And even when we find one sorry one, you find hundreds of good ones that make it right. And so that's why I live where I live. And that touched my heart. Because those kids who are all 24, like 11 to 24, should not have been hassled with paying for their father's funeral, who had not been in their life in years and had not participated. And I mean, you know, and they did it out of respect for him, which was great. I mean, completely understand why they did it. But they should not have been hassled and had that burden put on them. And so the community stepped up, and 4 days it was paid. That's why I live where I live. We have good people. I'm going to have to shut up because I'm going to have to go lay down and rest. But I really enjoyed this. Maybe I shouldn't have picked a possum, since possums play dead. Somehow we got on the topic of death. But anyway, it's a good conversation. Everybody needs to think about these things. It's good to broach the topic in a casual format where you're not freaking out about it. And normally when I talk about things, I have enough of a humorous take on it that it doesn't leave you feeling like, oh dear Jesus, Armageddon's coming, you know, because most people feel doom and gloom at the subject. I most certainly do not feel doom and gloom at the subject. So maybe it was better that I talked about it. Maybe somebody needed to hear it. But I'm going to shut up about death now. But I am going to say tomorrow you will see Mortimer finished. I will paint him later. And then I will pot him tomorrow. And we will see what he looks like with his little variegated vine growing out of his little pouch. And I can't wait to make his little pink feet, because they're going to be adorable. So I will check in tomorrow. I have yapped enough for tonight. Y'all can tell I'm feeling better because I'm talking a mile a minute. I can talk the hind leg off a mule. I'm going to shut up and take a nap. I love you all. David is super excited to do another live. He is super excited to continue his videos. He knows that not many of you wanted to watch the tube skinning video. That's more for the men or the people that are interested in the really grisly details. He understands that. But he's still going to do a lot of the trapping videos and a lot of the beaver and the educational about the traps and stuff like that. We have an odd life. I wish I could get my son to start a channel. My son is just one of those kids that is just like, I don't know what he's up to today, but I bet you $10. It's interesting. I bet you $10. He needs a reality show. I bet you 10, you know, and so 9 times out of 10, I tell him, please start a channel, Lane. Please start a channel. Because you're so talented. You do such strange things. And he's funny as crap. And I've been really on to him a lot about it, because he's just a personality. And he's sweet and he's adorable. The women would just flock after him, which his wife may not like. But, I mean, he would have quite a gravitation of people to him. But I've been trying to get him to start a channel, and I think now with his carvings going as well as they're going with his apprenticeship, he may start, but he doesn't have a lot of time because he has like 3 jobs. But I'm talking to him about starting a channel. I brag on him. I think I have amazing children. I don't put a lot about my daughter on there because she's at college right now. I can't put my thumb on her head and protect her. When she is out of college and safely moved, planted, married, you know, and has someone watching over her, then I will share more. But she's just too pretty and too gorgeous for me to advertise somebody to go get her, because I'd hate to have to hunt somebody down. So, but I'm trying to talk Lane into doing a channel because he is such a crazy little redneck savant. And that's why my last video about him was like, he does these crazy things. He's just off the wall. I never know what he's going to try. And half the time I'm like, please, Jesus, I know he's going to have a happy life. It's probably going to be a short one. But could you please just not let him fricassee himself when he's trying some of these things that he builds? But he is one of those kids that's very strong-minded, very old soul, very much just I don't know. He comes up with stuff that he should not know, that I grew up around, but I know he did not grow up around. But then I'll come home and he will have built a forge and be smelting iron to build a knife in the backyard. He does strange things. Made the Lichtenberg machine, which are very dangerous. Please, no one ever try to do that. Oh my gosh, that terrified me. He makes his own recurve bows out of saplings. He makes his own arrows and fletches them out of feathers. He raises ducks. He loves ducks. And his dog goes with him everywhere he goes. And he lives shackled, and harnessed up a tree, cutting trees down all day. And he's just got such an interesting life. So when I post videos about him, what I'm trying to do is generate interest so that he will see, yeah, I will have an audience. And yes, I could potentially turn this into something. And just with the chainsaw carvings alone, I think he would have an audience. But I'm trying to show him that he is interesting. He is weird. He is authentic. He is quirky. And people would love to see what he's up to. So if I post stuff about Lane, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to brag on him because I think my children are just like the best kids ever. I was blessed. There's something about my son that I can't put my thumb on, but it's like he's from a different time. And I think it would just be so interesting if he had his own channel. Y'all would love it. So if I post videos about him, encourage him to start a channel. Say, Lane, we would love to see you do this, this, and this completely on your own. Start a channel. Because he needs to. Because he is way more interesting than me. Way funnier than me. And his wife is just as talented. She makes homemade lip balms, lip scrubs, face scrubs, body butters. She can cook anything. She fishes, she hunts, she does everything. They could have their own channel and completely, just sweep an entire audience. So leave an encouraging word on Lane's video and say, hey, start a channel, bud. We want to see you. We want to see you do this on your own. Start a channel. So, yeah. And he does lots of strange things that are not normal, that young people do not do, and that are old ways that are being lost. So it's very important for me to make him want to celebrate what he's doing. Because he doesn't understand how special it is, and I do. Oh yeah, he's going to be doing that Neapolitan Mastiff. He was researching it today, and he said he thinks the most economical and easiest would be to do one that's laying down. Oh my gosh, I'm sitting on this chair and it's killing me. Would be to do one that's laying down, so that you could use a whole log and have more coverage space, but that way a lot of the time could be on the wrinkles on the face and the ears and the character, and not losing a whole lot of time on the body, so that you're not paying for time on the body, you're paying for the character and the face. And I said, well, that makes sense to me. If you're wanting to help people save money, it makes sense that you don't want to spend 10 years carving a butt. You'd rather spend, all the time carving the face, because that's where the personality is. So he's looking at it and trying to figure out, he's trying to price a log that's big enough. He's trying to see what wood would be the best, the price of the log, and then he's trying to kind of hack out how many man hours would be in it for a price. And as soon as he gets that done, you will be hearing from me. Because he's wanting to make it pretty decent sized. So, because he wants it to reflect the big dog that it is. So that, I think he's thinking about possibly, he's thinking possibly making one that's laid down with the, like with the head up, so that he can put the character in the face and spend all the carving time on the face, so that it's your animal and what kind of animal it is, because that's where the personality is. Because then the rest of the body would be just a few wrinkles and a pretty decent, easy to carve form, and he could get a lot of the personality in there. So, oh yeah, when I was little, I worked at the vet's office, and I had a big English Mastiff, His name was Jed. He had just come out of surgery. He had been neutered. And he was not waking up from the anesthesia right. So I had to sit in the room, on the floor, and put Jed's head in my lap. And Jed's head was bigger than my lap. I was like 12 years old. And when Jed would nod back off, I would have to smack Jed and wake him up and talk to him. And he was huge. He was ginormous. So yeah, we've been around a lot of these animals. A lot of people use them. Oddly enough, a lot of people use them when and it's just as pure. I think it's as pure decoration, because when we were hog hunting, a lot of them would have mastiffs, and they would have them in cut vests and stuff as like useful catch dogs. And I'm like, that's not a useful catch dog. It's got way too much loose skin. The hog's gonna get it. The hog's gonna cut it. But I think they wanted it as just, it was size and status for them. But they were always the most gentle giants, unless you got around somebody they really cared about, and then you had to. They would give you that look like, "Excuse you," and I'd be like, "Okay, backing off." But they're really great dogs. They have really great personalities, and they're really loyal family animals. But they have the most expressive faces, and so he wants to make sure he can get the expression in the face. Did you see the little butt that he put on the bear? It's got a little fuzzy butt, and then it's got a little tail, and he said, "I gave it a Shaniqua butt." But he gave it a little butt with a little tail, and he was so proud of that bear's fuzzy butt. And I forget where that bear went, but everybody is so enamored with that bear's butt that apparently more people take pictures of the bear's butt than the front of the bear with the welcome sign. So, but he's talented. He's young. He's just fixing to turn 24. And the guy that he is apprenticing with that's done this for decades is amazed with his skill. And so I hope he stays doing this, because I think this is something that he's meant to do. He's just a talented little turd. He's always been artistic. Haley, it skipped her. And it's kind of funny because we're the hunters, we're the fur people. We take animals apart, and then Haley's in vet school. She puts them back together. So I guess it's like a full circle. I don't know. But I have pretty awesome kids, and I loaded that video of Haley, and she was just doing some target shooting with her 22, and that was when I think she was 14. Because she had on her dance leotard top, so I know she was 14. She was at least 14. Might have been 13, just turned 14. And if you listen, every shot she pings, and that was a 3-levered swinging. It had 3 swinging metal bullseyes, and she's pinging them back and forth. My children were proficient in weapons by probably age 9. And I finally found that, so I uploaded it. I had that saved on an old Facebook profile, and I finally found it, and I thought, I'm putting this up so people can see I'm not lying. I made my children proficient. And I've got a lot of lane shooting too, but it's less impressive. He's a boy, and he's supposed to know how to shoot. But that was Haley. You know, just, every once in a while we get stuff out, and I'm like, hey, make sure that, still sighted in good. Hey, make sure that's, And she was just taking her around with her 22, and that was just how good she is. She takes after her mama. So that was an interesting video, and I'm amazed YouTube hasn't flagged it yet. But I do try to show you all that what I do tell you is true. This is how we live. So, alright, Oscar's looking at me going, I need to pee. So I'm going to let Oscar out. I'm going to eat me some dinner, and then I'm going to lay down. I've appreciated all the chit chat and all the time on here, and I will be back tomorrow to show you pictures of Mortimer. We'll see what he turns out to look like. So I will see you all tomorrow. Mama Liz going on Oscar detail. I'll see you tomorrow. Love yous. Bye.